you so much. I
And
will share
we'll
my
see
screen.
each other after.
Yeah. First of all, I think I should thank KNOB for the opportunity. It's my pleasure to share this again for I think the second time for the Dutch audience. But I think this won't be the same because eventually there will be more people talking about whatever they already know and whatever they know, because I base my work on Silaban almost exclusively on whatever I can find in his archive in Bogor, based on 1,500 drawings and numerous books, and with limited interviews that I had with the late wife and the sons, and not so much on the daughters, but particularly with one of the Silaban son, who became the only one who became architect. So it was explored with the help of so many colleagues throughout the years. But the only in 2015 I managed to put it a bit by bit into a publication in 2017. This is quite extensive in terms of pages and also the use of archival information. But that's pretty much that I get as primary sources for whatever I wrote, added with some context about the development of architectural history in Indonesia, the inspiration, the discourses that have been happening in Indonesia in terms of architectural profession. And so I kind of like put this book as an archival interpretation and also architectural history interpretation on the life of and works of Silaban, the Friedrich Silaban. So I managed to put a very simple timeline for you to understand, to really focus on the peak period of his career, which is actually quite not that extensive, because we can say that his peak career began in 1954, in 1955 until 1965, where he was most productive, because he worked for the state, especially for the first president of Indonesia, Soekarno. Um, and after that, he was no longer working for the government, except from finishing off his particular projects that have been associated with the previous era. But the story that I'm going to tell you about this started from his early life in where he began his career by moving from a tiny village in so-called Donanbolok in the north of Sumatra. It's actually is a Toba Batak tribe living surrounding the lake Toba, the Samosir Batak Toba tribe. He was from a very well-known a family back then in the small village, but not so much as a general national figure, because it's just his father was a caretaker of the local church, so he's have been exposed a great deal with a good connection with the local Dutch authorities probably, and he had exposure with modern education. He had been lauded as a good, diligent, and very bright student. So he managed to to upgrade his education, went to better schools, and then he got aspiration to study technical or engineering, and he managed to go to Batavia in 1927 to attend the AMBA school, the technical high school, Koningin Wilhelmina in Walter Freden in Batavia. He studied Baukunde at the time, and he managed to find an opportunity to work with the architect Antonise, who worked for the Batavian Public Works Department, who served as a designer for the Gambir Market Festival, annual market festival, established right in the middle of the so-called Konings Plain in the middle of Jakarta, to commemorate the Queen Wilhelmina birthdays annually. So it's like Indonesia likes to build Oriental release festival buildings for several weeks, so people can enjoy the festivity and to enjoy the Oriental exotic building forms at the time. And many people believe that Silaban worked on that project too, but I'm not really sure how and why and what kind of project that he did for Indonesia at the time. But he managed to won the Indonesia's trust as a very diligent student because he was very talented and also executing so many works for him in the municipality of Batavia. And they got very close, and Silaban even got uh, uh, some kind adopted by Antonisa because he eventually lived in his house during his stay in Batavia. But after that, Silaban got promoted to work for the public works department and sent to Pontianak uh, by the end of the late colonial era. But I think the most important thing about Silaban's early years, he has been exposed with this kind of architecture at that time. Things that uh, have been developing so fast, so innovatively in Indonesia because it started with something very quite simple, like the Japanese bank built in early decades of 20th century with the neoclassical style, but with the very modern building construction method. It developed into something probably in the Netherlands have been called as the new bouwen, the new way of buildings. So the style that have been promoted in Indonesia at the time probably pretty much similar or following a certain kind of aesthetic principles that have been developing in Netherlands, starting with the experimentation with the roof forms, with the proportion, with some kind of scale, and also introduction of particular styles and particular building elements, with the coming of the flat concrete roof and certain kind of ornamentations. These are the things that I think had been influencing Silaban in his early years. Because as far as I know, Silaban is not too critical about accepting these kind of forms, but he's very quite sensitive in terms of uh, adopting certain kind of form to fit certain kind of functionality and to make his building sturdy, long lasting, sustainable as possible, and not to add trying so hard to avoid conflicting forms that uh, potentially can risk the integrity of the building, like not trying to meet a certain kind of roof form, clashing into each other. So he prefer everything as clean as possible, as straightforward as possible, just like the examples that have been exposed to him during this early years. So in the 20s and the 30s and also in the early 40s, he had been witnessing very good architectural examples that's been introduced by Dutch architects in Indonesia. And I also think that he's not really shy to express his admiration to certain kind of architects, especially from the Netherlands, into his early works. So he began designing. I'm not really sure whether he's designing this project in Bogor as officer in the public works department of Buitenzorg in Bogor at the time, or he did it in his spare time uh, as a private architect, private service. I'm not really sure, but this is a hazy year for architectural records. But he managed to finish this beautiful school building, agricultural school building, which is still in the preserved in very good condition at the moment, which is pretty much we can associate that with the forms and the proportion and the roof, the scale of the roof, and also the scale of the spaces with the works by Willem Dudok in Hilversum. So he managed to finish this project before he left for Amsterdam in 1949. Uh, I think he was in the ship to the Netherlands when Indonesia and Netherlands uh, signed the transfer of sovereignty from the Dutch East Indies to Indonesia in December 1949. So he arrived as as an Indonesian in the Netherlands to study architecture for a year in Amsterdam. I'm not really sure whether he got a degree or not from the Netherlands, but he came home to Indonesia and pretty much can say himself as no longer as a graduate from a technical high school, but he he began to introduce himself as a qualified architect. This is also one of his first project in 1948, which is not built. This is a competition, a national competition for the Faculty of Agriculture, the University of Indonesia. The interesting thing about this period, because there's a lot of changes happening in the education system. So uh, during this critical uh, period of time, despite of the conflict between Indonesia and the Netherlands over the independence of Indonesia, there have been a lot of improvement in terms of upgrading facility in education, especially in Bogor, which is very well known of the agricultural studies. And we can see that his early works have been very can be can be closely associated with the works of Dutch architect at the time. But also the same time, he also developed a different kind of style already in 1950 when he designed uh, a freshwater fishery lab also in Bogor with with a design very simple lines have been typically associated with something from the even from the mid 1950s, very simple form, no longer using a lot of ornamentation, but instead using a lot of vertical and horizontal lines, very without ornaments, and typically uh, associated as an international style. This is also one of his early works in 1957. Uh, I assume that these have been this monument to the national heroes project have been designed since probably much earlier in 1954, 1955, but executed a bit late, like his several other works. So this is also not typical for of his work, especially if we compare it to the design that he did in the 1960s, because this one particularly has so many ornaments and proportion that is can be associated with his earlier works. Um, but the most interesting thing about his career is happening in 1945, 1954 and 1955 actually, when President Soekarno launched almost 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 at the same time launched three separate architectural competitions to adorn the 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 place so-called the Konings Plain in the middle of Jakarta, where the new center of development for the city of Jakarta is growing. So it was considered now the 0 point of Jakarta, which actually not the case with the 19th century development of Batavia. This is actually the southern extension of the city. But then, because it's adopted as the capital of Indonesia, it became the center, the civic space, and also the center for the government governmental institutions. And it was the problem with this place for Soekarno, probably. This is my assumption, and a lot of people assumption about this situation. Actually, Soekarno thinks that this place is has too many association with the colonial past, because it has been adorned with uh, colonial institutions, Dutch building, we call it. And then there's a lot of facility that associated with the Dutch colonial past. But this is at the same time is also potentially can be converted into something that is uh, can can project or can and express the new identity of Indonesia by erasing the symbols, and also introducing and outshadowing the earlier monuments with the new ones. So the chance of having it as architectural showcase can be established, can be done by launching several architectural projects at the same time. So this is actually what the existing look like, and what we still see today. The one that I I highlighted as with the red circles are actually still can be still visible, and part of this area, which then called as the Merdeka Square, the the Freedom Square, the Medan Merdeka, and this is pretty much like absorbed into the site's identity. But there are several things that have been changed or been intervened by this competition, especially the three projects. The first project is the Bank of Indonesia. This is the building itself is a symbolic gesture to be put in the square, because it hosted the Central Bank of Indonesia, the finance powerhouse of the country. And the second is national monument. Of course, this is a symbol. It's out to symbolize the independence of Indonesia. So it associated with the moment of the proclamation. Um, Despite it's not the actual the ground zero of the proclamation. This is another story that I can address later. And this the third thing is to put something associated with the largest group with a very strong identity in Indonesia, which is Muslim, the Islam. So to have a national mosque in this constellation is very strategic and very symbolic to achieve that kind of gesture that have been dreamed up by Soekarno, and probably by others as well. But I'm not really sure about others. But for sure, Soekarno, being an engineer and also architect himself before he turned into politics, he has so many speeches and have many expression and many speeches that directly addressing the commissioning of these projects. And apart from that, actually, there's not two buildings, the two projects also. Uh, Sorry, before we jump to that, actually, the three projects have been won uh, almost simultaneously by Silaban. So because of this commissioning and the winning the national competition, made Silaban's name almost almost like the top of mind, like for most Indonesian people at the time, over a year, because he won the competition for the Bank of Indonesia, he won the competition for the National Mosque, and also he won the most prestigious one, the National Monument. Even though he didn't receive the first winning spot, but he got the second one. But there's nobody can claim the first one, because there's none. And he also got the trust of the president, and he also managed to design two other projects in this constellation, actually, the National Theater and also the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, among other things that he was appointed. But the last two actually not built because of the timing, because of the fall of Sukarno in 1965, of course. But he managed to finish at least these two projects, the Bank of Indonesia and also the National Mosque. Uh, More about the national monument a bit after that. So, and yeah, and it's obviously that he got interested. The President Sukarno got interested in his talent, and he was commissioned with a lot of things after that, especially during 1960 to 1965, which is the busiest period of his Silaban's career. He probably designed 100 of projects that can be associated to his work, or at least his with involvement with Silaban. This is the Bank of Indonesia model, created right after the competition, I guess. And he still employ a lot of things from his past, actually, but he dressed up this. I mean, I think this is one of the tallest building at the time. I think the tallest building in 1954 when it was designed, but no longer the tallest when it was actually built in 1958. But this is one of the first building dressed up in the international style, a bit away from the Dutch modern architecture from the 1930s. But interestingly, still employ the big roof, probably probably because of the sentimentality of having an institutional building, an important one in the middle of the square. But I cannot really say that out loud in terms of a theory, because I have been looking for a concept and ideas or stories exactly from Silaban, but I have none of that. But we can discuss about that. Um, this is the look when it was finished. I think it is taken in 1961. The photograph when it was fully built and fully running. Uh, this is the National Monument entry, the second prize winning entry, which is can be associated probably, if you are familiar with this, of course, with the town hall in Hilversum by Willem de Duck as well. This national monument proposal, there's a lot of theories about this actually. Why it was not built or chosen as the first prize winner? The most obvious one, I think, is about the scale and also the dimension and the area that have been dedicated for the whole monument, because it was very big. It's huge. It involves not only the monument itself, but the monument itself with this enormous pedestals. It it has surrounded by so many buildings, big buildings, much larger than the presidential palace itself, much larger than everything that has been combined in Jakarta in the whole complex of the Medan Merdeka Square. And he has a 8 very big, enormous building surrounding the circle. So it's very big in terms of scale, very extensive and very intricate, and presumably very expensive to build as well. And is what obvious compared to other competition entries by artists, architects, and others. Uh, and the thing that have been caught President Soekarno as a jury, I think, because Silaban is the one who are really uh, address the aspiration of the president, and also uh, uh, the one that consider the scale and the dimension of the monument to be visible from surrounding area, because the Medan Merdeka Square is quite extensive space to build in. It has one side of the Medan Merdeka Square is 1 kilometer long, so it has to be very big to be visible and to be considered as a monumental project as well. That's why all others competition entries are not, maybe not that satisfying in that terms. So this is the proposal compared to the existing situation. So what 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 President Sukarno has done is actually to wipe out everything on the square and to replace it with one single monument, which can really dominate the whole square in terms of scale, in terms of architectural space, and to be visible from all directions, at least from the 4 directions, and also has to perform as a generator for other monuments to come after this monument. to have it as a center, and also to have other component as a one true constellation, to really can to be able to replace the colonial association with the space with an Indonesian new modern identity. And the second thing that the third thing that he won is the National Mosque. This is the design that have been imagined in the National Monument Project, because it associated or in one single axis from the National Monument to the mosque. And actually, the plan is also very straightforward. He doesn't really, Silaban doesn't really like to tell in a very flowery narrative about his project. So he began with something very simple, executedly throughout the project with a very straightforward manner. So he only got one concept actually. He wants that the new mosque, the national mosque, expressed to different orientation. The first one is to express or have the connection with the national monument right in the middle of the square. And the praying area, the main room, is actually has to face or has to orientate towards Mecca, the Saudi Arabia. So it has two axes, and it has to play nicely between these two things. So he managed to find to design two squares combined as one monument, and then express it in an elevation to express the importance and hierarchy of the elements of the building. So this is actually the moment when Soekarno announced the winning competition by Silaban, and to commend to the jury and also to the committee to have this particular design to be built. This is the model. The left one is actually the original model from 1954, and the right one is actually a newer version model. If you can see, there's a little addition, portico or a canopy linking the southern entrance of the mosque to the northern smaller pier leading to the main prayer area. So it's just a very small addition, and relatively not touching the entire integrity of the design. Just some updates on the materials and how Silaban finished the, the some corners of this building. He didn't even touch the scale and also the dimension of the building itself. So this is the drawings. The interesting about this project, the project that he did for the competition actually, after he won the competition, he actually didn't get any kind of updates or response from the government, because the government, I think, because I've been very busy with a lot of things, and probably Indonesia also struggling at the time in 1955 in terms of the political situation. So this Silaban's project only managed to get revisited and start the construction only after 1960, after Soekarno established himself as the president for life, and after he established the guided democracy. So effectively, actually, he managed to build this kind of thing only after he became dictator. Only became he have combined all the power that he can get under his command, and he managed, and only after that he managed to to execute these grand projects under his command, and effectively under the military uh, uh, change of command actually. This is the first rendering of the mosque, which is slightly different from what we can witness today, because previously Silaban dressed dress up all the walls with natural stones, the andesite local stones. But eventually, when Suharto, the second president, took the command, took the baton in effectively after 1966, he command all the finishing should be with marble, the local marble. This is all the design that have been executed by Silaban in 19 between 1961 and 1966, and continuously doing that until the late of his career, like finishing only in 1978. So he practically working for this project for more than 20 years consecutively, not only as architect but also as a leader and also coordinator for the construction project. So he literally has his office inside the project, inside the construction precinct. So this is quite understandable to why the juror and also President Sukarno choose this uh, Silaban's project as the winner, because the other submissions are not in the same sensitive quality as Silaban, despite of the very grand and much bigger, much monumental proposal by architect Han Groenewegen at the time, who got the third prize winner, who designed a very big, huge dome, probably 3 times bigger than Silaban's proposed. But this one has no, in terms of elegance, this one is lacking of that. I mean, it's much grander. I think I can imagine if this one built today in Jakarta, it will dominate the whole landscape. So that's probably not the thing that Sukarno wants. But I can only speculate. We can discuss about this much later. It's very interesting project as well. And eventually, the Groenewegen also partnered up with Silaban in 1957, and they execute a lot of projects from Sukarno themselves. So it's very interesting to see how these two figures, important figures, interact. If we can look closely at the history and archives. So the whole profession between the inception of the project as a competition until the establishment and inauguration of the mosque have been enamored with so many spectacles. I mean, since the early surveys and visits from the dignitaries, especially by Sukarno, just like this one, probably in 1956 when he visited the site. Actually, the site itself is not a neutral site because it was a park established by the Dutch colonial era for the neighborhood, which is dominantly uh, the Dutch people, of course, and it was contained a fortification from the early 19th century, and also has a lot of symbols associated with the colonial government. And we Indonesian found those elements for those monuments as kind of offensive to the Indonesian aspiration to change the identity of the whole area. So it began to document everything, the dismantling, the demolition of this, and has been well documented and very well celebrated by Indonesia, especially when Istiqlal began construction in 1961. So this is the organization for the construction team. And as we can see, actually Silaban plays in the middle, not only as an architect, but also as the executing commando. It's actually placed as the vice commander under a general on top of him. But actually, he managed everything, like the contractors, and also this is this says the daily directors. So he command three different firms working under him, the contractors, the consultant for the architectural consultant, and also the structural consultant under him. So everybody established as a working an office on site. And the composition have been staying like this for the rest of the project, interestingly. So he managed to stay put in the project despite of unfortunate events during the change of the political turmoil, whenever there's a lot of financial difficulties, but the whole team stay on until the end of the project. That's the interesting thing and the most patriotic thing about the project, actually. So when everything happened, actually, Jakarta is also developing, like the buildings, apart from the Bank of Indonesia. New buildings, office building, modern buildings have been sprouting in the surrounding the Medan Merdeka, and the construction of the national monument also proceeding quite comparatively quite quickly compared to the construction of the Istiqlal Mosque, actually. So if you can see at the at this corner, I'm going to annotate this part. Is actually the site of the mosque. This is a photograph taken in 1970. Not 17. This is actually from 1962 or 63, just a bit before 1965. But practically there's nothing above the ground except from this pier happening before 1965, because there's lack of money. It's a great deal lack of money, and there is a difficulty of placing the national budget for this project, because it's so enormous, so big, and has been prioritized for other projects, especially the national monument, and also the because of the pressing deadline for the Asian Games, the fourth Asian Games in Jakarta in 1962. So there's a lot of difficulty of booking the budget for this project. But the nice thing is about this project is actually persisting to be built despite of all those trouble. So this is a photograph in 1973 after the new government put an annual budget for the project. So it's begin progressing rapidly after 1967, and finally Indonesia managed to put a very large sum of money to top the building with a very enormous big concrete dome in 1970, and to glaze it with a very good quality porcelain in 71 and until 73, and to finish all the project by 1978. Actually, yes, this is taken around 1970s after the so I think it's around 73, 74 when the glazing had been finished, and the marble cladding is underway. So there's a lot of documentation in the National Archive of Indonesia about this particularly heroic project for Indonesia, which has been very celebrated. There's a lot of record of Indonesian people trying to use the mosque for praying as soon as possible, even during the construction, and have been well documented and been visited by so many dignitaries. And there's a lot of documentation as well in correspondence with a lot of engineers, suppliers from abroad. There's like discussion, intricate discussion between Silaban and his team with a couple of structural engineer professor in Germany, in Darmstadt, to apply the technology and also the vendors from Germany at the time to finish the ceiling for the interior ceiling of the dome. There's been a very good discussion. This because the model have been put forward by the Professor Emde. Contains a Star of David in the in the middle, which is very sensitive for Indonesia, of course. That's why Silaban proposed another kind of composition for the centerpiece, which is sensible and necessary, I think. And this is the way that building looks in 10 years ago. And this structure had been gone through a major renovation 3 years ago with a new lighting system and throughout cleaning of the marble, it looks marvelous at the moment. And this was also the 10 years ago. Has been cleaned now. Probably look a bit different. And the carpet also have been washed properly and is more gleaming today better than previously. So I'm going to show you some slides about Silaban's other works because we have been preoccupied with Istiqlal Mosque, of course. This is a house that himself built for his family back in 1959 and 1960 in Bogor. This is just a stone throw away from the presidential palace where Soekarno stays most of the time. So whenever Soekarno in town, and he always managed to command one of his 10 children, a lot of children in his house, to look for a sign from the palace, which indicates that Soekarno is in her house, and probably in an hour or two, probably somebody from the presidential palace will pick up Silaban and ask him to come with lots of drawings because he almost this president almost have a breakfast daily with Silaban to discuss architectural projects before everything else happening on that day for the president. So he almost commissioned with lots of projects without any other people knowing about it. So he managed to commission projects personally to Silaban. He ended up with the proposing the design the next day or the next few days, and only a moments after that, the president managed to tell other people to pay Silaban for his service. So there's a lot of things not really properly documented on about this role of Silaban in designing a lot of things for for the country actually, not only for the presidents. That because the commissioning actually mostly for institutional and public projects. And this is particularly a very interesting building because it's very humble instead, despite of the huge size, because it occupies 2 plots. But he managed only to design the inside part of the plot and to take the building away from public view, so the public can only see the silhouette of the roof and shaded area underneath the very big roof. And it's very tropical in the way it is expressed the building because it's very dominated by the roof and almost show no wall, no facade to the not only to the front but also to the back. So it's pretty much like the interior is a bit dark because it's very shy away from the sunlight. And this is another project that actually half built because it was designed for the Indonesian Air Force headquarters. But only the front part, the small part, the pedestal part has been built properly because the tall part is not never built. This is the front part has been changed dramatically, so we hardly can recognize the original version. And there's a lot of Silaban project that ended up like that, but not the case with the Bank Negara Indonesia in actually located in Kota Tua, the old city of Batavia. The Bank Negara Indonesia was actually proposed by Indonesia as the central bank during the Den Haag roundtable discussion with the Netherlands, because Indonesia wants the BNI, the Bank Negara Indonesia, to be the central bank of Indonesia, away from the influence of the Dutch on the Japanese bank, of course. But eventually, the negotiation persisted with the Japanese bank as the central bank of Indonesia, which is then called the Bank Indonesia, which is also designed by Silaban, of course. Without the roof, actually the building is almost the same, almost identical. But the Silaban managed to differ these two buildings by applying different kind of roof. This one is slightly slanted roof with a concrete roof, but Bank Indonesia near the National Monument designed with a pitch roof. But everything else seems to be almost identical. Not the same, of course, but with this identical style and finishing, and also the way he treated the corners and applied the materials, and also the sun shading elements is pretty much same, in the same breadth. And Silaban also managed to cater the expiration and also the spontaneous patriotic expression of the president, especially uh, during the conflict of Papua. Uh, as soon as Indonesia got an not official announcement from the United Nations about the fate of the Papua, he managed to commission Silaban to design something in front of the former governor institution building, which is now the Financial Ministry of Indonesia. In front of the building used to be occupied by the statue of Jan Pieter Soekarno, had been replaced with this particular monument designed by Silaban back in 1962 to indicate, to express, to show the liberation. So the monument itself is called the Liberation of the West Papua, uh, with the statue designed by an artist, Heng Gantung, with the pedestal and the treatment of the base of the monument by Silaban. So he proposed two schemes, and it was actually built almost identically like that. And the most interesting thing, and so many intricates in the one project, actually happened in the site of the proclamation of Indonesian independence. So actually, this project by Silaban occupied the plot used to be owned by the house that was occupied by Soekarno in 1945, which happened to be the site for the proclamation ground zero. So the building where Soekarno stayed, actually this particular building, highlighted by the mark here in the model, architectural model, but it was demolished by Soekarno himself, creating a controversy at the time in 1965, when he decided to do that, and also to buy the whole plot of land and demolish all the buildings, and to replace it with this building by Silaban at the far corner of the plot, and to mark the point where Sukarno himself read the proclamation text with a monument which marks the main axis of the building. And the building was built in rush, and managed to cancel all the complaints about the decision to demolish the historic site, and he managed to design the whole building dedicated for showcasing Indonesian physical, infrastructural, and monumental structure projects to the public. That's why the building itself is called POLA. It stands for pattern or plan for architectural and infrastructural plans that have been carried under Soekarno, or even planned by Soekarno. This is also the another project that have been unfortunately not built as as intended. This is for the Supreme Court in Jakarta. Um, the built one is actually not as monumental as this one. Only a very tiny portion has been built. So the grand entry like this is actually never happened, and the building currently only probably occupied as less than half of the of the original plan, which is not really clear who did the smaller version of this building. Sorry, I'm going to erase this one. And the Bank of Indonesia also got an extension in 1965, but never happened. So the original building stayed put like that. The tall building at the southern part of the Bank of Indonesia is never really executed, despite of the sign of approval typical of Soekarno have been put on the drawings. But this, as you can see, happened in 1965. So it's a few months before he was toppled down by the new regime because of uh, of the failed communist coup at the time. So everything, many of the plans have been cancelled, just like this one, the National Theater. This is actually a very big theater. Has two tribunes facing the a very big, enormous stage in the middle. Can house indoor for 15,000 people at the same time. So it's very big indeed. And this is probably the biggest gutter in the world if it was built at that time. So big. And this one actually was realized in Surabaya because Bank of Indonesia commissioned Silaban with at least two or three other buildings in other cities, apart from other financial institutions for several other cities as well, have been well executed, just like what he planned, but with typical design. Uh, if you can see, you can realize that actually he employed international styles and very forward building elements, just like sun shading elements, flat roof, all in concrete, uh, deep interior shaded, well shaded by the architectural elements, uh, things that have been very different from the style that he began with in the early years of independence. So I think this is the last slide, but I'm very open if you have a, a question and also request for me to be able to show you some other of the photos, drawings, and so on and so on, probably because of the time limitation, I probably can only share this much. But if you can request, if you have a request, probably I can take a quick search, or probably you can do it yourself by accessing our website, the Museum Arsitektur Indonesia, arsitekturindonesia.org, by typing or clicking on the Silaban collection drawings, so you can have it a good look by yourself. I think it's back to you, Agnes. Thank you very much for the time.